Introducing the team from Doctor on a Mission, Dr. Isabel Hunsinger, and of course, Chef Michael. Kia ora. Thank you so much for your time today.
Kia ora, Andrew.
Now, when it comes to making lifestyle changes, because this is your big thing, really, what lifestyle changes can we make to improve our health outcomes generally, but also specifically in terms of brain health? This can be a tricky one, particularly for old dogs like me, honestly, and I'm not using that as an excuse, but I'm just saying I've spent all of my life getting into these bad habits. I'm not just going to flick that away and make better health choices just because you good people tell me to. We've got to make sure that we've got some motivational foundations for making these changes, because it does take a bit of willpower. It does take a bit of time to reestablish good habits. When it comes to having that motivational foundation, where do we start with this, guys?
Yeah, that's the key. And the number one factor we have found with people being successful in making any kind of lifestyle changes is they've actually got to identify, well, why would I bother?
Yep.
And it's the number one reason why most people, once they get into something, it just kind of falls away and they forget about it. And it's like, oh, well, I gave it a try. Because, we all have to look at that individually. What is the factor? What's the reason that I'm going to bother with any changes? Because you're exactly right, Andrew. We are all creatures of habit. And if we've been doing something for a long time, I mean, there's got to be a very strong reason I'm going to bother to make any changes. And that's one of the things we always do is find out from somebody, well, what's your big motivating factor? And I know Isabel wants to share a little bit about what was her motivating factor to make some changes in her life.
Now,
Yeah.
It's different for every person, I suppose, and there may be different hot buttons depending on your circumstances. But Isabel, for your circumstances, what was the key motivator for you?
I had to figure out my why. Why am I going to get myself right? And God helped me understand that I had to get my why right in order for me to help not only myself, but my family and all the other people that I'm leading into a better lifestyle with their brain health. So what's my why?
Yep.
My why every single morning is my husband, my kids, and God.
Yeah.
That's my why. That's why I'm suffering sometimes reading the latest research and learning new things. It's hard to learn new things. I mean, we all like our comfort zone.
Yep.
And Michael and I are being so stretched out of our comfort zone. God's got like us flying and we're developing wings as we've been kicked off the cliff. And we're like, okay, we're going to figure this out. And we know why we're doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm doing it because of Michael and for our daughters and for God and for the people. And I have to remember that when I get uncomfortable. And that's why we have to all know what our why is. Because without a why, you're not going to change. It's too hard.
Michael, you've also, you and I have talked before about this. It's not, yes, it is transformational, but it doesn't have to be all at once. We can do this a step at a time and, hey, try it. If it works for you, then lock that in. Take the next step rather than saying, okay, I have to throw out every single bad habit that I have and eat this weird food that has, it's weird to us, perhaps, as we start the journey, but that incremental change, that's going to lock it in stronger in some ways.
Yes, you're exactly right, Andrew. I mean, that's one of the keys we have found with working with people is we can't just teach, give them all this information and turn them loose and expect them to just make all these changes and succeed. Each individual is going to have a level of change that they can personally handle.
Yeah.
What we have to do is identify, well, where's your starting point? Where are you at right now? And this is where any conversation for any of us comes to an honesty point.
Yeah.
We have to honestly look, where am I now? And then as far as our health goes, and then what's my picture of what my good health looks like? And how do I get there? And then we just take that first step. we're just going to do something that moves the needle a little bit. I always talk to people about on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you?
Yep.
Maybe you're a number 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as your brain health, your physical health. Then let's move it to a 2.5, to a 3. We're not going to jump it up to a 9 or 10. That's when failure is definitely going to happen. So just little increments to move it along, and that's the best way to do it, to approach it.
Isabel, you're talking beforehand about your why and being motivated to make changes because of the people that you care about. I suppose another way of looking at things is, so what would my life look like if I didn't change? What is the worst case scenario? So how do I want my health to look in 5 years when my grandchildren are this age? Sometimes we need a little bit of a jolt. We need to be scared by some of the consequences of a lack of action to inspire us to take that first step that Michael was talking about.
You are absolutely right. And as a medical doctor, seeing that that's the way it usually is. People are jolted by a difficult situation. And sometimes that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the way it was for me. And the key is you got to learn from the jolt. Some people go, nah, I'll just go back and keep on living the way I was. I encourage people to paint a picture in their mind of what they want to look like in a year. And then 5 years. Do you want to be enjoying your grandkids? Do you want to be irresistible for your husband or your wife? You know, like, what do you want to look like? Because if you don't change now, you're going to look like everybody else out there right now. And like, I don't blame people for being obese and diabetic and having heart problems, because they're geared. The environment is geared right now for that. You got to really change the course of the boat.
It's easier to go downstream, isn't it? It's easier just to go with the flow and to do the things we've always done, or to do the things that our society, our community, even our friends and family circle, just to do what they do. I mean, the personal circumstance for myself yesterday at the funeral of a family member. And I mean, hey, he lived a good life. Lots of positive things spoken about him and the sort of person that he was from from family members sharing. But you got to ask the question, could he have lived longer if he made different choices? Now, he was the person that he was, but hey, sometimes that is the wake-up call when you have a friend or a family member who passes away too soon, or perhaps has chronic health issues or brain health issues, that we get that wake-up call to say, hey, I don't want to be that person. What would it take to change the outcomes, rather than saying, oh gosh, I suppose that's just old age and degenerative health. We can do something about it. That's the good news, right?
Amen. Very true. That's the good news. We can.
And you brought up a point too, Andrew, about motivating factors. We all kind of get motivated differently. Some will be motivated by, as Isabel was, by family and relationships and the way they want to be in a positive way going farther, shall I say. Others are going to be motivated by the negative side. They're going to be looking at it going, I don't want to end up like that. And so there's two ways of looking at it. It could be, more of the positive way. Hey, this is the way I picture myself being, and taking care of others and being with family. I want to be, hiking and biking and everything until I'm 100. Or, as you said, seeing that negative side going, oh my gosh, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up die young. I don't want to be, have Alzheimer's. That, we've recently had a client, unfortunately, come to us with an early diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's at 54.
Wow.
Well, that's a wake-up call for most of society right now, because that's what's happening. So there's a negative. Do I want to end up, my 50s and 60s already in trouble? Going to be heading to a nursing home quickly? So there's different ways of looking at those motivating factors.
I mean, guys, you're talking about how this is individual, and motivation can be a very personal thing. And there's the principles, the Bredlison 7, is it? Did I get that? Well, there's principles to live by. And hey, we may not do them all at once, but rather than just go, well, hey, here's the 7 things you got to do, read the book and you're done. This is a very individual thing, and part of what you guys are doing with a Doctor on a Mission is individually working with people to say, hey, where are you at? Where do you want to be? What's the first step? Yes, people can look up something online and Google their way to a better health, but it's having health professionals walking alongside with you and encouraging you and motivating you. That's going to make the difference between success and failure in just about every case, right?
Yes,
Well said.
exactly. Yeah. You got to have somebody walking that with you, somebody that's got some knowledge, but also is behind you, empowering you to go there, and then identifying as you go along. Because all of us, as we're going through the journey, we miss so much. I know for Isabel and I, as we go through this journey, we have a coach that points things out to us like, hey, you missed this. And all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that.
Thanks for being there.
Thanks for being there. So, it's so important to have somebody doing it with you who can coach you and empower you and say, yes, you can. And then if you haven't, they pick you up and dust you off and say, yep, let's go again. We can do this.
Now, hey, there are lots of resources. And look, if people are listening to this and they're going, hey, gosh, I'd like to find out more, doctoronamission.com, DOCTOR on a mission.com. That's a great place to start. But if people wanted to go a bit deeper into this, they did want to have a personal consultation, they wanted to say, hey, I would like to start changes in my life so that I can have better outcomes. You do that, you offer that type of service, personal consultations and tailoring a program to an individual person that's available through your ministry?
Yes, we do. And it's all through telemedicine. So people don't have to drive to us. Wherever you are, we can connect like this.
Yeah. And another key with that is also if they want to have friends, family, individuals with them on any of those consultations, we invite that because we like to work as a team.
Yeah.
Because it takes a community. It does take a family to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. Very good advice, as always. doctoronamission.com, the place to start for that. Thank you so much for the wisdom, for the encouragement, for the blessing that you bring to so many people. Guys, a pleasure to chat, as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.